In this edition, residents of Mariupol appeal to Vladimir Putin. Their home was destroyed and there is no new housing. For the third year already, they have been living like homeless people, and now they are receiving police summonses for asking questions. A series of strikes on facilities inside Russia. In Sterlitamak, a petrochemical plant is on fire. In the Lipetsk region, an oil depot. In the Kostroma region, an arsenal. Transport and energy hubs in Voronezh and the Leningrad region have also been damaged. Against the backdrop of setbacks in Syria, the South Caucasus, Gaza, and Venezuela, the Kremlin once again demands that the North Atlantic Alliance return to the borders of the 97th year, declaring a zone of interest that no one recognizes anymore. American intelligence is tracking a Russian tanker that has changed its name to Marinera. The suspicion is sanctions evasion. According to sources, an operation to intercept the vessel is being prepared. In Caracas, there is gunfire near the presidential palace. According to unconfirmed reports, the conflict is within the Venezuelan elite. Maria Machado states that if she had withdrawn her nomination for the Nobel Prize in favor of Donald Trump, she would already be the president of Venezuela today. They hoped they would become citizens. Instead, they became case subjects. The house burned down, the housing was demolished, the promises were forgotten. And now, for trying to remind others, there is a police summons. Mariupol, Moskovskaya Street, house number 16, once an ordinary apartment building, now emptiness. No walls, no roof, no right to return. The residents recorded a video appeal to Vladimir Putin. Not the first, not the last. They speak about being left without housing, about how new housing was promised after the demolition but never provided. 3 years. 3 full years without a home. Wandering. Temporary lodging. Rented rooms. No status. No compensation. 0 documents.
They waited for reconstruction. They were told they would be able to return. But in reality, they simply disappeared from the radar, remaining only in their own archives. And now, they are surplus. But when people decided to remind others of themselves, they were summoned to the police. Those who recorded the video appeal were handed official warnings. The wording cited signs of extremist activity. The reason? A phrase stating that the promises had not been fulfilled. This is the reality. Mariupol waited and received scorched neighborhoods and silence. Those who welcomed the Russian army with faith now sleep in rented corners, without rights, without status, without a guarantor. And this is not a malfunction. This is a system. And while residents of Mariupol knock on closed doors, on the other side of Russia, there is no knocking. There is an explosion. There, where no one expects justice. There, where they expect fuel, rubber, and silence. Only this time, they did not get a single one. Last night, a complex strike was carried out on the territory of the Russian Federation. Key facilities linked to the production, storage, and transportation of fuel, as well as military depots and logistics, were damaged. In Bashkortostan, in the city of Sterlitamak, a petrochemical plant was hit. This facility has strategic importance. Aviation gasoline is produced there, used in reconnaissance and strike unmanned aerial vehicles. The plant also manufactures synthetic rubbers used to produce tires for military equipment, armored personnel carriers, Tiger armored vehicles, and Iskander operational tactical missile systems. After the strike, a large-scale fire broke out at the site. According to the official version, the fall of debris from an unmanned aerial vehicle. In the Lipetsk region, an oil depot in the Usmansky district was attacked. According to sources, the depot stored petroleum products intended to supply military units and transit equipment columns. The nature of the damage and the extent of losses have not been officially disclosed. One of the most serious incidents occurred in the Kostroma region. Explosions damaged Arsenal number 100 of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, located near the city of Nea. This arsenal supplies ammunition to the western and central directions. As a result of the incident, a decision was made to evacuate residents of the settlement located near the depot. Authorities report that emergency services are working at the scene. Strikes were also recorded against railway infrastructure in the Voronezh region. Sections involved in military transportation were damaged. Another strike hit a compressor station in the Leningrad region. The nature of the damage has not been specified. All the facilities that were struck share one common factor: they serve military infrastructure. This concerns logistics, supply, and production. Official comments are minimal and there is almost no video evidence, but the fact remains. Facilities once considered safe turned out to be vulnerable. While strikes are hitting targets inside the country, discussions about
about spheres of influence continue in Moscow offices. Old vocabulary as if dusted off from Soviet manuals. They say, Russia has a right. They say, NATO must return to the borders of the 97th year. And all of this is presented as analysis. The Reuters agency published a report stating that Russia, having lost Venezuela, may attempt to regain influence in other regions. In particular, Ukraine, the South Caucasus, and the countries of Central Asia are mentioned. The article contains not a single confirmation of real negotiations between the United States of America and the Russian Federation. It refers only to opinions, those of Kremlin political analysts such as Sergei Markov, and one anonymous source from Russia. The meaning of the statements is straightforward. If the United States allows influence in the Western Hemisphere, then Russia should control the post-Soviet space. This is what is called the Trumpist Monroe Doctrine, and the Kremlin seems to want the world to agree to a new division. But this message sounds against the backdrop of real failures. Over the past 2 years, Russia has lost influence in 4 places at once: in Syria, in the South Caucasus, in Gaza, and in Venezuela. Everywhere there has been a loss of partnerships, a reduction of military or diplomatic weight, and defeats against other players. Against this background, statements about a sphere of interest look not like a strategy but like compensation, as if to say, if we are losing in reality, then we will draw ourselves a victory in theory. But not a single Western country has signaled that it is ready to talk about any trade-offs. Moreover, the United States of America, through the Secretary of State, made it clear, no one promised Russia anything and no one will hand anything over. So who still believes this? The authors themselves? Or those who need an explanation for why all of this continues? Now the Kremlin is once again voicing the old thesis: we will not allow NATO to move closer. The problem is that the advance has already happened, and the rhetoric has remained in the past. The tanker previously known as Bella 1 is now sailing under the name Marinera and under the Russian flag. Formally, it is an attempt to avoid seizure. In practice, it is an attempt to preserve the cargo. American authorities suspect that the vessel is involved in a sanctions-evasion scheme. According to sources within the government of the United States of America, an operation to intercept it is being considered. It may take place in the coming days. Signs of preparation are already present. American helicopters and tilt-rotor aircraft have been spotted in the area of the presumed route. Aerial activity is being recorded from units linked to rapid reaction forces. If the operation takes place, it will become a symbolic episode. The Russian flag will no longer guarantee immunity, neither on land nor at sea, especially in zones where American jurisdiction acts quickly and diplomacy does not have time to catch up with events. Moscow has already appealed to Washington with a request to stop the pursuit, but in response, there is silence, or more precisely, the sound of rotors in the sky. What exactly the Marinera is transporting is unknown, but the very fact of changing its name and flag speaks for itself. Something is being hidden, and when something is hidden, it is being sought. And while one Russian tanker is trying to escape pursuit at sea, in the very heart of a former strategic ally of Moscow, automatic gunfire is echoing. Caracas, night. Once again the streets, once again the noise, once again uncertainty. But now it is not an external threat. Now it is an internal fracture. In the capital of Venezuela, shootouts have been recorded, including in the area near the presidential palace. According to local residents, the gunfire continued for several hours. Official sources are not commenting on the information. Not a single press conference, not a single statement. The country's political elite is in the shadows. According to unconfirmed reports, the conflict is linked to a split within the ruling structure. Certain security groups close to the old Chavista circles allegedly oppose rapprochement with the United States of America. This is precisely the policy direction pursued by the current authorities, and it is precisely this direction that has become a point of tension within the system that, until recently, was supported by the Russian Federation. The paradox is that at the very moment when Moscow is losing its levers of influence, Caracas itself is beginning to change from within. And if previously threats to the authorities came from the streets, now they may come from their own offices. Smoke in the streets is no longer just protest. It is already a struggle for control. In the capital of Venezuela, people are once again speaking loudly and openly, not only about gunfire in the streets, but also about the political balance inside the country. The leader of the Venezuelan opposition, Maria Machado, made a high-profile statement that has drawn the attention of international observers and political analysts. According to information published by the American outlet The Washington Post, Machado stated that she could have been president of Venezuela today if she had acted differently at the time regarding the Nobel Peace Prize. She claims she would have been ready to renounce her nomination in favor of Donald Trump. According to her, if she had then said, "I cannot accept this prize, it belongs to Donald Trump," it could have changed the political dynamics and led to a different electoral outcome. outcome. According to the opposition leader, Donald Trump's actions toward Venezuela became a turning point and opened the path to democratic changes that had previously seemed unattainable. Machado emphasizes that her political positions became more visible precisely after her strategy was revised toward closer cooperation with the United States of America. This statement is not only about an award, but about a real political struggle inside the country, where pressure within elite circles and the confrontation between veterans of the former Vlasti and new leaders are reaching a climax. It shows how deeply Venezuela's political scene is undergoing changes that until recently seemed impossible. Such statements heighten tensions, and international political circles are closely watching the development of events, understanding that what is happening in Caracas may have far-reaching consequences for all of Latin America. And meanwhile, drones are flying, warehouses are burning, allies are disappearing, and everyone watching all this is left with only one question: who is next? Thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. From here on, it will only get tougher.